Bom dias, annyeonghaseyo, namaste, greetings. On behalf of the Council for World Mission, we welcome you to session 2 of day 1 of eDARE 2021. eDARE 2021, E because this is done electronically, and DARE is a program of CWM. DARE stands for Discernment and Radical Engagement. It's one of the programs of the Council for World Mission. I welcome you on behalf of CWM, behalf of the DARE program, and on behalf of the General Secretary who has joined us for this session. I'm Sione Haber. I'm zooming from a beautiful piece of land that was stolen by British settlers and gave to Christian churches to build residences for students at what is now known as the University of Melbourne. And this university is in a cluster of islands now known as Australia. So from the unceded land of the Wurundjeri people, welcome, Wurundjeri, Wominjaga, to all of you zooming in from different parts of the world. A few housekeeping matters. Please note that some of the presentations will be recorded. And as we welcome all of you in today's webinar, we pose a couple of poll questions on your screen. Please answer those to help us plan future eDARE events. For participants, we ask that you please use the Zoom Q&A feature or the Facebook comment section to raise questions for the panelists, and the eDARE team will gather your questions and comments during the discussion time. We have an exciting panel for this session. In my humble opinion, it is exciting. All sessions of eDARE 2021 are exciting, but this one is especially exciting for me because they will be addressing matters related to the body, matters related to the creativity and transgressiveness of the imagination, matters about the courage to be in public spaces, matters relating to sexuality and birth giving. And it is also exciting because, and pardon my being here, this is an all-women panel. So what is not exciting about that? You will find fuller biographies of the members of the panel at the eDARE webpage, which the eDARE team will put on the chat box and the Facebook comment section. Please look at that link to learn more about the members of this panel, their location, their work, their commitments, and other interesting matters about them. We will begin with a poem that was going to be read by Aruna Gogulamanda, 2 poems that she has written especially for this session. We were supposed to begin with those 2 poems, but Aruna is not here, so we will save the poem for the end. The 2 poems are She Was Told and Beast. But we will then begin with the presentations. The first the presentation by Anna Ester, and then Nami Kim, and then Lucy Chibambo. And after the presentations, Inatoli I will offer a short response to the presentations and to the poem. And the aim there is to get us started in our discussion. But our first presentation for this session is Anna Ester's Queer Arctivism, talking back to the systems. So she'll present for 8 to 10 minutes, and then we'll move on to the next presentation. Anna Ester, thank you, welcome.
Thank you so much. Greetings, congratulations to all the members of the organization for this important event. Rise to Life, doing theology in public spaces. The theme chosen for eDARE 2021 was an invitation for me to share a little bit of my thesis dissertation, Burnt Closets, a church that affirms differences and the subversion of precariousness. This dissertation focused on the history of Metropolitan Community Church of Belo Horizonte, Brazil, connecting it with the political and liturgical perspective of its Arctivism, art plus activism. For this presentation, I have chosen to share the participation of Metropolitan Community Church of Belo Horizonte at the March Against LGBT Phobia by exploring the transconceptual encounter of art, religion, and politics. The title for this presentation is Queer Activism, Talking Back to the Systems. Art as an instrument of emancipation is an important political language of resistance, as well as community's expression of its own experience. Historically, art has been a way of breaking the ideological and geographical boundaries of the public space, being therefore an instrument of resistance and an ally of political militancy. In this sense, the Metropolitan Community Church of Belo Horizonte makes use of art through performances in order to give visibility to its protagonism and its struggle for LGBTQI+ rights. The slide shows a picture of an altar with the flag of Metropolitan Community Churches. On the altar are an open Bible, 2 candles, a cross, and some objects for communion. In the picture, there is also a box for money, and behind that, a LGBT flag. The Metropolitan Community Church of Belo Horizonte is part of the Universal Fellowship of Metropolitan Community Churches, founded in Los Angeles, United States by Reverend Troy Perry in 1968. MCC is a self-proclaimed inclusive church. MCC is a self-proclaimed inclusive church, and much commonly known as a gay church. According to the research Marcelo Travares Natividade, this is a religious denomination which proposes to be an alternative when elaborating its own hermeneutics that allows the conciliation between Christianity and a form of exercising sexuality that are dissonant from the heterosexual norm. The slide shows a picture of the square where the performance took place. 3 people hold a long red fabric, around them a small gathering of people who are not noticing the stage that was being set there. In the context of political alliances, MCC Belo Horizonte joined the civil society to coordinate the March Against LGBT Phobia at the city. The march is a political act that has been consolidating several cities in Brazil since 2010 and takes place on May 17th when people around the world mobilize for the International Day Against Homophobia, Lesbophobia, and Transphobia. The date was chosen in reference to May 17th, 1990, when the World Health Organization removed homosexuality from the International Classification of Diseases. The third March Against LGBT Phobia started with a concentration at a square in downtown, a place representing militancy and resistance of the capital of Minas Gerais, and its symbolic center of Belo Horizonte's main political activities. Traditionally, this square has been the stage for dissonant voices, attracting diverse audiences, both for its easy access or symbolical and political historical character. This next slide shows a picture of Simone Starr lying on a kind of stage that exists in the street with a mesh that hides pieces of raw beef steaks that would be later in the performance. She's wearing butcher's apron, lying between barbed wire and photos murder of transgender people. The square was the stage for performance of MCC members, sexuality, corporality that could be considered protected through what may be seen as a ghetto church, which hides LGBT people, was actually giving visibility to its members. Among the performers, there was Simone Starr, a drag queen performed by the actor Marcelo Oliveira, the spouse of the former pastor of MCC Belo Horizonte. According to Marvin Carlson, one of the emphases of performance is the body, In the case of Simone Starr, even the chosen theme, abject bodies, was a critique of society's indifference to the bodies of travestis and transsexual people. Travesti is a gender identity from Latin America that is usually recognized as a transgender woman. However, the word travesti says more than gender identity, taking into consideration other intersectionalities, such as race and class. The slide shows a picture of the performance of Simone Starr. She's holding a microphone and is lighted crouched. In front of her, several people, some of them watching and recording the performance with their phones, some not even looking at her. Using the square as a post-structure stage, MCC Belo Horizonte used art as a ritualistic way to speak about itself, choosing not to walk in unity nor carry denomination flags. The church showed that during the March Against LGBT Phobia, their mission was similar to the community's interpretation of the mission of Christ to take a prophetic message to the streets. Through art as a denunciation, art as Arctivism, MCC Belo Horizonte was concerned with giving visibility to what it considers to be a political agenda for travestis and transgender people. Religion and art intercross in a complex relationship in which, in principle, the desacralization of the right is not perceived. On the contrary, performed by discursive bodies, the rights bringing new meanings to the religion of the LGBTQI+ community. The departure of members from the temple through performance in the center, in the downtown of the city, would also imply an exit of the closet of the religion. The presence of MCC Belo Horizonte in the public space shows the Arctivism of this church is a social language which challenges cisgender and heteronormative systems. The case study reveals that the active and artistic use of liturgy as a ritualistic way this faith community identifies itself is a fundamental mechanism to experience the world while subverting the precariousness of being sexual and gender dissidents. Religion politics can be found in the religious temple and on the streets through art as an emancipatory activity that resists the systems. The final slide shows a picture of Simone Starr standing up with a microphone in one hand and a newspaper in the other. Art destroys the institution's walls. Art builds the stage for action. Art paints the face of tradition with colors of inclusion. Art is the liturgy of life created by bodies that defy the silence. Art is the sacred narrative of the incarnated justice. Thank you. Obrigada.
Obrigado, Ana Ester. Thank you for your presentation and for keeping the time. So that's very helpful for us. Will give us more time for discussion, and I'm sure we'll come back to your presentation. But the keywords that you have used flow well with our next presenter: art as resistance, sacred religion, activism, and the exit from the closet and making things, the public space, more inclusive.
The title for my paper is Childbirth, Impurity, Gender Discrimination in Leviticus 12. Childbirth is a social, cultural event celebrated in honoring the mother who was given birth. In most cultures, a fertile female is celebrated compared to a barren one. The celebration of childbirth goes beyond newborn baby. The mother is also celebrated due to the risk of childbirth.
Sorry, Lucy, can you speak up a little bit more?
Okay. Should I start again?
Yeah, just a little louder, your voice, please. So you have a soft voice. Yeah.
Okay. The mother is also celebrated due to the risk of childbirth. Despite its celebration, childbirth in some cultures is accompanied with some negativity. This is why the purpose of this paper is to explore the influence of Leviticus 12 concerning gender discrimination due to childbirth. The Hebrew culture is no exceptional when it comes to discrimination of a woman who has given birth. In grappling with the question, in what way Leviticus 12 influenced gender discrimination due to childbirth? In response to the given question, the discussion on this study is as follows. Leviticus 12 beliefs and practices towards childbirth, and I use the theory of the accessible God. And my next part, I'm looking at Leviticus 12. Leviticus 12 beliefs and practices towards childbirth. Childbirth cultural practices have been part of the Hebrew community, especially during the time of the remnant Israelites from exile. Remnant exile, during the return of the remnant Israelites from exile. The Israelites were encouraged through the Hebrew Bible to have children. For example, in the book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 28, chapter 9, verse 1, chapter 17, verse 20, to name just a few. God gave a command to the human race to be fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth. Apart from the mission of filling the earth, Psalms 127 verse 3 says, children are a reward and a blessing from God. Therefore, blessed is a person who has them. Despite the fact that childbirth is a command from God, Leviticus 12 gives a different picture about a woman who gives birth to fulfill the command of filling the earth. According to Leviticus 12, a woman who becomes pregnant and gives birth to a child is treated as unclean, unholy, or dirty because of the blood that flows after childbirth. Therefore, she needs to be in isolation in a menstrual hut until declared clean according to Leviticus 12. Antibe explains that a menstrual hut is a hut that is built by men for menstruating girls and women. Usually, menstrual hut is built on the outskirts of the village. The reason being that if a bleeding woman is in the village, she will contaminate the plants and the rest of the living creatures. Therefore, it means the bleeding woman is completely cut off from any community events. This is why Mesa Odioyo argues that the isolation of a woman from her family and community means that half of her life is prevented from being involved in any family, religious, and community activities. The period of staying in the menstrual hut for a woman who has given birth depends on the gender of the newborn baby. If a woman gives birth to a boy child, she stays in the menstrual hut for 40 days. If she gives birth to a girl child, she stays in the menstrual hut for 80 days. In other words, having a girl child means days of staying in isolation for purification are longer compared to a boy child. Stewards struggling with the concept of women spending longer days in the menstrual hut in order to be purified just because she has given birth. After her period of purification, the woman who has given birth has to offer a sin offering. a sin offering to be accepted back to the religious and family activities. The question asked by Ms. Harry is, what is her sin? In other words, Ms. Rari is saying what kind of sin the woman has committed apart from giving birth. Additionally, he says that childbirth is a miracle that we are fortunate to experience, open and close inverted commas. Therefore, how and why does giving birth to a child cause a woman to become impure? The command to be fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth goes through a process. And in the midst of that process, there is blood after birth. The blood comes out naturally, which a woman has no control over it. Frost, in her article titled, "Childbirth is a blessing, not an occasion of impurity," strongly argues that the occasion of impurity causes the woman who has given birth to go through some rituals and that discriminates her against her rights. Rituals like staying in isolation for a longer period after giving birth to a child, which is a gender discrimination. Why only a woman should go to isolation, while at the end of the day, the child belongs to both father and mother, or to both parents. In my analysis, as I said, I used Block, the accessible God. According to Block, accessible theory is a theory he developed that to recognize people with disability. In this study, people with disabilities are women who have gone through childbirth, even though they are not physically disabled. Due to blood flow after childbirth, they are treated as disabled people, according to Leviticus 12. Block gives an example and explanation of her theory through her 4 points, which are unique group, space, oppressive structures, or inaccessible space, and lanes of access. Block explains that women who have given birth are a unique group, not because they are inferior to those who are normal, in inverted commas. They are unique because are discriminated against due to blood flow after childbirth. Systematically, women who have given birth have been denied access to the religious and social spaces for the fear of contaminating others. This is why Block strongly insists that the Christian community needs to challenge structures which exclude or discriminate such women. Additionally, Block states that barriers that discriminate women who have given birth can be destroyed or transformed. In concurring with Block, Kanyoro points out that what oppresses women must be destroyed or transformed. It is important for Leviticus 12 to use the lens of access and inclusion to learn from God, who is inclusive. Also, Block strongly pointed out that people should not be excluded according to either their nationality, gender, background, or physical conditions. The study has shown that childbirth in Leviticus 12 discriminates women due to blood after childbirth. Her blood flow, his monthly process and beyond her control. Why should it cause a woman to be impure? Yet childbirth through women is the only way to multiply and fill the earth with the human race. Therefore, the celebration of childbirth should not be spoiled by discriminating women who have given birth and viewing them as impure, unholy, or dirty. Thank you very much.
Many thanks, Lucy. I'm sorry for interrupting you earlier, but your voice was too soft and the audience were not able to hear. But thank you for your presentation. I think you share with both Nami and Anna Esther this wanting to challenge the structures that is oppressive on not just on women and women bodies, but also LGBTQIX bodies as well. So many thanks. We will now move on to the poetry, the two poems that Aruna was meant to get us started, but now she's gonna bring us together with her two poems. The words are posted so that you can, the audience may be able to follow as Aruna reads. Aruna, thank you.
That has been wonderful listening to the three speakers, learning a lot of new things which we are not yet exposed to. That was great. And coming to my poetry, like the other countries has this white supremacy, India is suffering with the caste supremacy, and India having lots of hundreds of languages and ethnicities and differences across country, and caste is one such a problem that is ruling us. And being Dalit women, scheduled caste women, we suffer multiple discriminations in India. And our literature, our writings hasn't yet come out of the country. We are writing, we have started to get educated. We are the last people to get educated in India, being the poorest of the poor and oppressed also by 2-3-fold oppression by the male society. So I took it a point, even as religion, even church, also, if not like the Hindu temple, today's church also in India is making women subjugated. It is not giving equal respect or conditions to women. I feel that Dalit women or the oppressed women of India should speak louder. That's how I started to write. I'm going with my first poem. She was told not to wear a blouse, to allow every male to watch her as a device. She was told not to wear a blouse, to allow every male to watch her as a device. She was told to bend her back and not walk straight, to fill the tender tummies, keeping herself a bait. She was told to bend her back or not walk straight, to fill the tender tummies, keeping herself a bait. She was told to toil all day long at her hut or at her master's feet as a human machine deprived of food and water. She was told to toil all day long at her hut or in the master's field as a human machine deprived of food and water. She was told to gulp the pain of not feeding the starving baby. She was told to gulp the pain of not feeding the starving baby, though her lactating breasts pine to quench its thirst. Though her lactating breasts pine to quench its thirst. She was told to take the cruel thrashings, the jeers and the sexist assaults. She was told to take the cruel thrashings, the jeers and the sexist assaults of a man or her master on her body, which she hardly knew that she has won. Of a man or her master on her body, which she hardly knew that she has won as her own. The sun feeds on her all day long, and the landlord consumes her blood and beauty till life goes on. The sun feeds on her all day long, and the landlord consumes her blood and beauty till life goes on. Whom he calls and considers mere mud after satiating his fleshy hunger. Whom he calls and considers a mere mud after satiating his fleshy hunger. She was told that she is a bad woman. She was told that she is a bad woman, like a bloody sanitary pad, which is used but hated with disgust. She was told that she is a bad woman, like a bloody sanitary pad, which is used but hated with disgust. Her eyes are two dry hollows, which tell several stories of countless deaths of her mothers and daughters in the fields on the roads, paying the price of being a female in a cursed clan. Her eyes, two dry hollows, which tell several stories of countless deaths of her mothers and daughters in the fields on the road, paying the price of being a female in a cursed clan. Her unkempt hair, a torn piece of cloth, hardly covering her body. Her unkempt hair, a torn piece of cloth, hardly covering her body. Her roughened hands, a cracked heel. Her wrinkled face that overplays her age, has hardly any voice to tell her saga of years and years. Her roughened hands, her cracked heels, her wrinkled face that overplays her age, has hardly any voice to tell her saga of years and years of how they lived in countless insults and fears, of how they lived in countless insults and fears, of how they died day after day as living corpses, or how they died day after day as living corpses. She was dirt, she was filth, she was an object of contempt and insult. She was dirt, she was filth, she was an object of contempt and insult. And it is in this country of thousands of goddesses, she was a Dalit. And in this country of thousands of goddesses, she is called a Dalit. This is my first poem about Dalit woman, the most oppressed woman. Caste, in the ladder of caste, she is on the last rung of the ladder. Now I'm moving to Beast, a poem that I have penned looking at the rapes. In India has become a capital of rape after the BJP government or the Hindutva fanatic government had come into rule. So this was then I had penned this poem. A jackal roams around the fence, trying to grab a chance to feed on her body. A jackal roams around the fence, trying to grab a chance to feed on her body whenever she forgets to close the door. A jackal roams around the fence, trying to grab a chance to feed on her body whenever she forgets to close the door. A lust-infested dog daydreams of satiating its fleshy hunger, waiting impatiently at the doorstep to pounce on her. A lust-infested dog daydreams of satiating its hunger, waiting impatiently at the doorstep to pounce on her. A wolf awaits a chance, hiding in the bushes, to feast on her female cell and tear her apart to quench his beastly thirst. A wolf awaits a chance, hiding in the bushes, to feast on her female self and tear her apart to quench his beastly thirst. A three-legged sniffer dog next door goes on making meaningless queries, hiding his slyness, trying to capture the place that she had been since morning. A three-legged sniffer dog next door goes on making meaningless queries, hiding his slyness, trying to capture the places she had been since morning. Yeah, next. A licensed policeman pulls her into the bed, rips her body apart using third-degree method. A licensed policeman pulls her into the bed, rips her body apart using third-degree method, snores his way to thunderous sleep, receiving his daily sedative. Snores his way to thunderous sleep, receiving his daily sedative. A famous ad in television promotes their soap in style. A famous ad in television promotes their soap in style and tells all the women to wash away all the dirt with it. and tells all the women to wash away all the dirt with it. But will all the detergents and rivers full of water of the world, will all the detergents and rivers full of water of the world be sufficient to wash away the stains of sins that are committed by these beasts on women of this country? Be sufficient to wash away the stains of sins that are committed by these beasts on women of this country? Thank you.
Many thanks, Aruna. Thank you for your words and powerful words, calling out those lusty infested dogs and the policemen who violate bodies of women. So thank you very much. I want to say thank you to all of our members of this panel, to Inatoli, to Anna Esther, Aruna, Nami, and Lucy. Thank you to the audience as well for listening in. It would be great to get more questions from the audience. We have another session that's coming up, and we thank everyone and invite you to the third webinar session of eDARE 2021. The presenters will continue this conversation and point us in other directions as well. We invite you to that third session. Your feedback is important to us. Kindly answer the evaluation questions that are posted on your screen at the end of this session. So thank you very much and look forward to seeing you again. Manuia.